D&D players of Reddit, what is the most creative character you've seen someone play as?
Wingardium Leviosa.
Personally, the most creative I've seen was a tiefling warlock who was constantly disguising himself as an elf cleric. All of the players, out of character, knew what he was, but he had the whole party, in character, convinced, and between his high charisma and the rest of the party's low intelligences, it didn't seem likely to change anytime soon.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I've got a friend who is a weird character machine. Most recently is an orc named Starog who believes that weapons are a coward's weapon and beats people to death with his shields. Before that was Robert the Destroyer, a barbarian who threw ladders at people. There was $3.50 or tree fiddy to his friends. A really creepy monk who could shoot vines out of his hands like Spider-Man. And of course Justin Chandler, a shaman, who saved literally all his gold till level 7. Then used it to permanently enlarge and awaken his pet frog and deck it out with sweet gear. Edit, back by popular demand. Credit for most of these to you/Ginger Syndrome. A few of mine as well. Vilik Gainsha 5e Warlock who halfway through a random goblin encounter realized he was killing them for no reason and became a staunch defender of goblin rights. Harold the Great and Powerful was a
Wingardium Leviosa.
bard who was absolutely useless but invested everything in bluff and insisted he was a high-level wizard. Also had a penchant for buying people's souls and then pushing them towards positions of power. The Bear Witch Project, aka Bwip, or Bruce Burner, was a lycanthrope witch that spent most of his time in half-bear form. When asked what his gut feelings were on a topic, he responded with, "I have many feelings on guts."
Wingardium Leviosa.
I haven't seen it myself, but someone over at r/greentext posted his story about a gnome and a half-orc. The gnome had the mount skill, and sitting on the orc's shoulders they were both invincible. Would love to play with that idea sometime.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Did a min-max build to create a damage monster of a fighter, had to shortchange him in certain areas as far as wisdom and intelligence goes. I realized this was a bad idea the third or fourth time I died during a single session because Brick had trouble realizing what was dangerous and what was not. Eventually the cleric just tied a rope around his neck and led him around, that seemed to help a lot.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A few years ago on Reddit, I made the claim that D&D 3.5 gave you the ability to play literally anything you wanted, including a sentient goddamn wheelbarrow. I ended up statting up a race of intelligent wheelbarrows. This bit me in the ass when someone decided to play one in one of my games, but I had to put my money where my stupid mouth was and let them.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A thief with one level of illusionist that passed himself off as an archwizard. Throwing fireballs and screaming these beasts are immune to magic. In a fight was a funny experience. He was good at scamming NPCs though.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I am not so good at magic, and I've never cast a curse dash and my thaumaturgy's tragic, though my fortune telling's worse. I am not so good at witching, and my potions never brew dash, and the thought of mixtures twitching makes me kinda want to spew. I am not so good at potions, but I really must admit dash, I'm the king of self-promotions, and my trickery's the shit.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A lizard wizard. Not a cool, humanoid one, a gecko which could occasionally spat sparks.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I love playing as animal characters like that. My brother once played as a sentient parrot and put all his stats into knowledge about the Mirkwood forest. The party never even went near Mirkwood. Parrot. Helpers. Well, I have some facts about Mirkwood that might lighten the mood.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A player made a dwarf, who was actually a human midget raised by dwarves. He was a barbarian and was modeled after Maccaman Randy Savage. He had a pet Wolverine which he would throw at people while screaming the fastball special. Then Wolverine didn't last too long. Randy throughout the campaign slowly went insane due to his fear of magic. Randy that began cutting off people's hands for no apparent reason. The legend of Macho Man ended when he attempted to suplex a dragon.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I haven't done it yet, but I've always wanted to play as a true polymorphed chair. The chair was turned into a human, or any player race, and then started learning, maybe becoming a wizard himself. I don't know how anyone would ever know, since the change becomes permanent, but if he ever walked through an anti-magic field he would just turn back into a chair and be gone forever. And no one else would walk through there for fear of being turned into a chair.
Wingardium Leviosa.
3 dwarves, stacked in a trenchcoat. Upon meeting the character there is a roll to see if they think the character is normal or see the 3 dwarves stacked. The whole character is a bit of a joke at the same time oddly works. Each character is its own class AMD depending on the stack order things change. Also one is Guy Fieri as a dwarf for no good reason. Guy also has the adventure chef class.
Wingardium Leviosa.
He was a tiefling. His name was Keith Ling. It went downhill from there. Edit, he had an invisible imp familiar, named Jim Parsons. No relation, he called him Jimp for short. Edit 2, he was also the character responsible for trying to swim the party up the side of a castle. Not climb. Swim.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A friend of mine decided to be a smartass and play a character named Gok Cobbler. So yeah, the DM decided to play along and has made a good portion of our campaign revolve around the secret society of cobblers and their ancient feud with their enemies the haberdashers. There are a lot of magic shoes and magic hats. There's also a masterworked rifle named Blood Faucet that might be cursed to seek haberdasher souls.
Wingardium Leviosa.
My girlfriend has made a character for our next campaign that is an elf fighter, but is only good at fighting when he is drunk. When he is not drunk he is lawful evil and a bit of a scholar. When he is drunk he rips off his shirt to reveal his muscles and becomes chaotic good.
Wingardium Leviosa.
OCD druid with bag of holding. Would clean up battlefields and other places using the bag as a dust bin. Was hilarious halfway through the campaign when the druid used the bag as a ballistic weapon and emptied said bag.
Wingardium Leviosa.
What was its weight capacity?
Wingardium Leviosa.
Bags of holding can hold 500 pounds, 227 kilograms, or 64 cubic feet, 19.5 cubic meters, whatever comes first. Edit, messed up meter conversion. Used linear meters equal than cubic. It's 1.8 meters. Edit 2, holy crap, my most upvoted comment ever and it's because of a mistake.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I played as a Wemmick back in college and I loved that character. He was a druid and thus could only carry wooden weapons, so after thinking about it, I gave him a lance. And then proceeded to get every feat you could for a knight on horseback. Trample, charges, etc. I leveled like a monster class instead of a player class, aka, slow as balls, but man, it was a hella fun character. He could do some insane damage by the end of the game and if he had to get into close combat, he could do rake bite for damage. My favorite part, though, were his 2 animal companions. The first was a weasel that took levels of thief, so it was our trap dismantler and it eventually had vorpal front teeth, so it had a devastating bite attack. The second was, and I'm not kidding, a giant white blood cell. It had been magicked out of a giant and made even larger and it rode around on my druid's back. As
Wingardium Leviosa.
the group's healer. It would blob onto them and heal them with a few levels of cleric. Mind you, my druid was teamed up with the lizardman barbarian who was surprisingly smart, and the Fey Bard that would drink anything put in front of him, which is how he ended up as a half-elf woman of a different alignment by the end of the game.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I once kidnapped a player character wizard and replaced them with a high-level illusion created by the beg. The player then had to control the illusion from the perspective of the beg, pretending to still be a member of the party. It was surprisingly effective. Just as they reached the beg, they were slowly realizing he wasn't helping much anymore.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I played with a 100% randomly generated character. I had a decent combo of class and race, half-elf and ranger, but my stats were completely dysfunctional for a ranger. My worst stats by far were dex and wisdom. In fact, they were the worst in the group. I was the ranger that could do everything a ranger was not supposed to do, and nothing that a ranger was actually supposed to do.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I currently have a character that is a cat. The cat speaks common, but no one in the party knows it because she prefers to speak cat. Which means only 2 members of the party can actually talk to her. She's not always super smart. Once there was a fight in a warehouse, and she didn't feel like fighting, so she took a nap on one of the stacks and didn't wake up when the stack caught on fire. Another party member had rescued her. On the other hand, she once bit someone's butt so hard she nearly killed them.
Wingardium Leviosa.
In plain English, a monk who fought everything by punching it repeatedly in the dick. Pathfinder monk with the maneuver master archetype, who spammed dirty trick maneuvers. The look on the DM was priceless when they read the rules. Dick punch monk, I trip the tiger. DM, okay, rolls yup, tiger is now prone. Dick punch monk, I elbow drop the tiger in his fierce dick. DM, okay. So a regular unarmed strike. Dick punch monk, oh no no no. There are rules for that. DM, no there aren't. Dick punch monk, I beg to differ. DM, I guess you can punch the tiger in the dick. All the fights went from epic fantasy battles, to this monk pocket sounding, dick punching, and pantsing his way through every enemy.
Wingardium Leviosa.
He was a stealth character, but all his stat points went into intimidation. So whenever he was spotted he would just shout, "You do not see grog," and casually sneak past.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I had a buddy who rolled a dwarf thief. It quickly became apparent that he was terrible at all things thieving. He failed several very easy stealth, pickpocket, and fast talk rolls. When we asked him what the hell was up, he explained that took a whole bunch of floors so that he could start off with a skeleton key. Oh cool, we thought to ourselves, at least locks won't be a problem. We reach a locked door. We ask him to pull out his skeleton key. He obliges, reaching into his pack and removing an adamantium hammer that has skeleton key engraved on the hilt, which he then uses to pulverize the door with his +4 strength. Good times.
Wingardium Leviosa.
My DM insists we all talk in character. So I spend Tuesday nights playing a turtle with a bad Swedish accent.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I play a turtle monk in our games. Most sessions I barely even attack and am more used as a battering ram. GM, the party can feel wind coming from behind this wall. Roll perception to discover a switch. Me, I weight 500 pounds, I run into the wall full sprint. This has worked so many times at this point I think he just plans on it.
Wingardium Leviosa.
It's usually my character. We did a one-shot over New Year's and I was a gnome barbarian, so just a small ball of rage constantly. I decided somewhere around 2 AM that I wanted to go out with a bang, so I was going to sacrifice my life to kill the boss monster. Then I started rolling like shit and the monster did, too. I tried swallowing my vial of poison and forcing the monster to eat me, because feeding him the poison without my body wouldn't make me a hero. Then the monster rolled a critical 1. Then I tried inserting myself into his butt and that failed. Eventually it escalated to where I was just trying to commit suicide because my character was obsessed with dying a hero even though the monster was still alive. I could not die no matter what I tried, and my DM would have allowed it. We decided we will need to reprise this immortal gnome in the future. Disclaimer, I do not
Wingardium Leviosa.
find suicide to be a joke. The whole shtick started because I wanted to go to bed, and literally went on for an hour. It was a sleep-deprived gag that went on far too long.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A necromancer who thought they were a cleric. Only the player and DM knew and had a list translating what the player said they were doing and what they were actually doing. Spells, daily prep, so the others wouldn't catch on out of character. In his formative years he came upon a book of forbidden spells. Being young and stupid he assumed it was a book of divine rituals. Fast forward several years, and he wanders the land preaching about the everlasting life. He's skilled in first aid and potions because not every scrape requires divine intervention but has some spells that will bring someone back from the brink of death. He also has a bodyguard who wears full plate who follows him around because he owes a life debt. Doesn't talk much though. The other players never discussed removing their own armor, or eating, or using the toilet, so nobody found it odd that the NPC never did.
Wingardium Leviosa.
The other players also never took points in knowledge arcane to discover the spell effects didn't match what they should. Edit, people are asking. He got found out when one of the party members went down, and he turned them into a zombie. The players were then in on the joke and weren't able to separate what they knew and what their characters knew, which is why they weren't told from the start. If the party member hadn't gone down, there was a plan to have a personal quest in a trial of faith style to see if he could unintentionally turn himself into Lich, and if the party would help him do so.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I've always wanted to play as a secret necromancer, where the party doesn't know I'm a necromancer and I'm doing everything in my power to keep it that way but still practice necromancy. This might be that way.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I had someone play a good necromancer in a game I was in. They'd raise the dead to do mundane things like tend to farms and stuff to make people's lives better, and was constantly being chased out of towns because he was viewed as evil.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I played this character for a while. An army cleric who just wanted to heal his friends and saw necromancy as another part of his divine powers. Why let your friends go die when some otherwise useless corpses can go fight for you? Why do backbreaking labor when undead minions can do it?
Wingardium Leviosa.
Didn't experience this firsthand, but my brother once played as a rogue assassin who had his tongue removed. So he couldn't speak in an intelligible manner. Everyone he tried to talk with, including party members, had to make a roll to see if they understood him. Luckily, one of his party members rolled a nat 20 on his first attempt, so the DM ruled that they would always be able to understand each other.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Dwarf pirate that wanted to retire and become a farmer. I made my DM research cost of land, animals, reproduction rates and such. I love my farm more than adventuring.
Wingardium Leviosa.
This has happened to me. I wrote 10 separate side quest lines and 4 main quest lines, but one session I only had 2 players. I improvised a small town with a few basic quests for them to run through. At the end they were made mayor, and now 90% of everyone's time is the logistics of running that town.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Get someone unfamiliar with D&D/role-playing games to read this and see how they react.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Yeah. I've been wanting to play, but I don't know of a single one of my friends who does, so. Edit, spelling. Edit 2, wow, my most upvoted comment so far. Looks like I'll be looking at Roll20 and asking my friends tonight about D&D.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Just bring it up sometime. You'd be surprised at how many people secretly want to try it but don't want to bring it up for fear of sounding nerdy or something. For my groups, it mainly means we get together once a week, do a potluck dinner, drink, and vanquish some shit for a while. Always a good time.
Wingardium Leviosa.
His name was the Brown Arrow. He was an archer that was clumsy and rarely was at range. I swear his love for Batman got the better of him, because he always wanted to acrobatic his way up close but had terrible rolls, so it was a lot of flopping and crashing through windows. His ability, as you could assume from his name, was to make enemies shit themselves whenever an arrow would barely miss its mark. Was a short-lived campaign, but man was it a clown fiesta.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A camel. Not just any camel but a racing camel named Rocket Boots. We had a party member who was inconsistent about showing up for the games, and he showed up in the middle of a short campaign we were running after we had retrieved a stolen racing camel. It's hard to say exactly what it was, but the guy went ham role-playing this camel, making camel noises and doing camel things. It was absolutely hilarious.
Wingardium Leviosa.
There was a campaign where the party came across a magical cauldron filled with boiling gold. They were told they could drop an item in, and it would be turned to gold while retaining all of its other properties and be imbued with intelligence. They were warned that the intelligence might be malevolent. While the party debated what to drop in, the gnome rogue jumps in. He became gold-coated, which increased his armor class significantly, but also became cursed with an evil alter ego. There was much rolling to determine when and for how long he was forced to play as chaotic evil. Edit, wow. This blew up. Thanks for the gold.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I have never played D&D, but that sounds awesome.
Wingardium Leviosa.
The goal is to find a DM who doesn't railroad you too much but also doesn't tolerate murder hobos. Also, don't play with murder hobos.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Murder hobos.
Wingardium Leviosa.
It's sort of like a Skyrim character. They just go around killing everything without caring about the story. They don't really live anywhere, they don't follow the rules of the land, they just kill and steal.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I've got a story behind why I'm a murder hobo. Frown.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Go on.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Well, my character is a wayward halfling rogue thief who is obsessed with gold, and when the party found me, I was sitting in a bar griping about how I just got robbed and scammed. My entire motivation was revenge on this half-orc, and I eventually killed him, pissed the guards off in a large town, and used a dragon scale that we got along the way to summon a dragon and try to escape, drastically underestimating the power of the scale. I ended up accidentally summoning thousands of dragons that burnt down an entire continent over petty cash. We then went to a town to the north where the people were really fucking annoying, so we joined a local bandit camp and have been building an international army ever since. Also, I ride around on a brain-dead human mount. I was torturing somebody for information about a bandit camp leader really early in the campaign and brought him to critical.
Wingardium Leviosa.
And then our cleric rolled a nat 20 on healing him, and the DM let us use him pretty much as a horse.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I am shocked that, at least according to Control F, no one has posted the story of Old Man Henderson here yet. It's a fantastic read. A quick excerpt. Old Man Henderson was already a little crazy, and blamed his life's misfortunes on Vietnam. He never went to Vietnam, he was 12 in '74. Old Man Henderson wore combat boots, cargo shorts, and an open-front Hawaiian shirt with a wife-beater underneath. He was dyslexic, and had a lesser case of schizophrenia. allowing him to assume that the reason he saw crazy shit was because he was a little bit crazy. He had a Grizzly Adams beard and wore his hair in a mohawk. He never took off his aviator shades, for any reason. He had a stuffed parrot on his shoulder named Rupert that he constantly asked for advice, while ignoring the other party members as convenient, assuming they were hallucinations. He had an automatic combat shotgun he knew how
Wingardium Leviosa
to use. He also had memorized the anarchist's cookbook. He started the game with a pre-existing hatred of religion, cutlery, and books. His motivation was that he thought that the cult had stole his lawn gnomes, while he had actually donated them to a charity auction, got high, and forgot about it. Most importantly, he had a 320-page backstory that justified everything, from his casual knowledge of physics to his ability to speak Portuguese flawlessly. You can just imagine the sort of shenanigans that character was involved in. The point to having such a long backstory was threefold. To ensure the GM would never actually read it, and since he would never read it except for in excerpts I pointed out to justify things, I could rewrite and change things around completely at random without anyone noticing, and most importantly, convince everyone that I was serious about this character. And that it wasn't simply the game-wrecking bullshit that it was. Dickish, yes, but he really did have it coming. First outing of the group. The detective was spying on the building of the cultists with a camera. The jock was parked nearby, waiting for the group to let out so he could snoop it out. The professor had joined the cult to try and gain information. Old man Henderson very calmly parked his car, got out holding the shotgun in clear view of anyone who happened to be looking. In this case, the detective and the jock strolled up to the front door and kicked it in. While everyone just kind of stopped in shocked silence for a moment, he leveled his shotgun on the lead priest/cultist guy and yelled, "Muckle damned coolty air a namblies be keepin' me wee men." Did I mention that he had a nigh incomprehensible Scottish accent that came and went as he drank and or as amused me?
Wingardium Leviosa.
An elf. When in reality his character was en route to a Star Trek convention when he was whisked away to the D&D universe by a wormhole. Elves were uncommon in our universe, so the party never encountered any living ones, and any time he claimed to be speaking in Elvish it was actually Klingon.
Hey guys, this is the Rogue YouTuber here. I recently had a big change in my life. I had a baby daughter. Here she is. If you could do me a favor and remember to hit the subscribe button and bang the bell, I'm hoping to really create a YouTube channel that really gets people excited and brings people the best, most interesting content collated from across the internet. I'm saving up to save my little girl to Carnegie Mellon Computer Science Department, so please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.